Well, welcome back to the foundry. My little molding bench here. This is going to be a very short video. What I'm doing is I'm doing a follow-up on that cement molding. Yesterday I took all my scrap lead that we had around here, and you know, after taking all those little lead plates out of the defunct you know, battery backup systems, it took a few hours yesterday. Anyway, the whole thing is I wanted to melt that all down and to use this ingot mold and see how it reacted. Now, the heaviest thing I'm likely to ever put my hands on is the lead. All right. Took a few hours to melt it all down yesterday. Had probably almost as much scrap, you know, the oxide, as I did have good lead, but got it all done. Now, one of the things I wanted to see is, does this reabsorb moisture right away? Now, Florida, very humid, and in the summer it's the most humid. It can be 95% humidity out here in the shade, and so I had a bit of a worry about trying to use the cement cement molding mixture and see if it maybe started deteriorating, get it wet and all that. Well, I poured this all the accumulated lead that I melted down yesterday in here. Not a peep. Was as if I had put it under a hawk burner for a half an hour. No sounds, no pops, no nothing. Not even any boiling, according to the surface of this. So it works real well as an ingot mold. Now the next thing is, you know, when you know how things solidify, they'll shrink in on themselves. The same thing for this. You have a length, you have a width, you have a thickness. Well, when this thing fills in the ingot mold and starts getting cold and solidifying, it will shrink in all the dimensions. Okay. Now my question was, how badly is that going to affect the surface of this ingot mold? The sides, maybe not so much, because not only are they, you know, the sides, not only are they going to shrink longitudinal and widthwise, but they're going to be going towards the center of this ingot. So at the same time that it's shrinking, I believe it's going to be pulling away too. So you won't have a bunch of abrasion in there. The part that ain't going to get away with it is the very bottom. And my question is now, how much of this did it you know, pull? How much dust am I going to accumulate, in other words? If I have zero dust, it's an excellent surface for pouring ingot molds, and you don't need to put a mold wash on it. A mold washes will cover in a different video. If it does have a lot of dust come out, or even any dust really, then you will have to make up a mold wash and you know, slather it on there, so that if you're going to take a long day of melting down aluminum cans, like I got a 55-gallon drum full of aluminum cans I've got to melt down in the near future, and you know, I want to put it into this so that as soon as I fill up my steel crucible, I can just pour it and then get back to melting, let that solidify, pour it out, and it's ready for the next ingot. But the question is, do I have to make up a mold wash to so I can use it numerous times? And so, as you can see, bottom board, nothing on it, not a lot of dust or nothing. Tiny little bit of dust came off the top. And what I have to do now is I have to turn this over, let the ingot drop out, and see how much dust comes with it. Now, here's a little trick of the trade, as you might say. If you have something heavy that you want to turn over and you don't want your bottom boards to shift, you don't want the pattern to fall out, you don't want the molding sand to fall out, here's one way to take care of it. You use a 3-clamp method. Okay, now I don't have any mold clamps, but I do have wood clamps, and if I can get a good purchase on these bottom boards, I'll do it the same way as I did it in the foundry on the ships, with the three clamp method. Okay, it appears I'm going to have to turn this around sideways, or maybe not. One clamp. And there's 2 clamps. Well, it looks like everything's going to be cool, because if I can, all I got to do is just tighten this up a bit, and then we can work with it. This is not ideal conditions, of course. Okay, so now everything's nice and tight, right? Well, let's see where my should have practiced this before I turn the camera on. But you never know how things are going to go. All right, now this is going to be down, this is going to be up. So what I need to do is I need to put another set of clamps on here. Got to move this one towards the center. Alright, side's ready. Sorry, hope you didn't have an earthquake in there. Let's see if I didn't knock you out of... Oh, you're still there. Knock you out of position. Okay, now all we need to do is just set it up. Hopefully we can. Okay, now, while as cumbersome as that might look, this is the best way to turn it over if you don't want your sand to fall out, if you don't want your pattern to fall out, and you want everything to stay the way it was when you were making the drag. Okie dokie. Okay, now there's the part that I did the venting. Still has the holes open. Doesn't look like much of anything spouted out in here. Now let's see what we got here. Okay, tiny little bit of sand. And the sand that I got from over at Home Depot, nice and smooth. So, let me get that up there so you can see it a little better. So, hey, worked fine. It looks like you really don't need a mold wash for that cement molding sand, unless you're using a more coarse sand, you know, like a 100 grit or coarser, in which case whatever material you're going to pour in it, well, when it's molten, will try to conform to every nook and cranny that's in your mold cavity, including the gaps in between the sand grains. So if you find that when you pour a mold that it's got a very pebbly firm finish, that's because you've got very coarse sand, and you'll need to put a mold wash on there to smooth that out. Okay, and that's the end of it. This ain't no hour-long show this time. Okay, see you next time. Oh, forgot, Liberty Call. Hey Jack, you want to see the ingot the ingot that I made? Huh? Yeah, here.
Oh my God! Turn that thing off,
honey. Now do 10 push-ups.
Oh, take it.
All right, love you, sweetie.
You better edit that out of there.
Not happening.